So what I'd like to do today is walk through some of the structure of the primary index issues that I think are going on that I picked up on, or you could say detected, when I was a library clerk for many years. I want to emphasize that I don't really have the greatest familiarity with each and every of the books that I'm going to present to you. So some of my understanding of what is in the books themselves is a little bit superficial. So just a warning in advance that you should second guess and double check my results. This interesting book seems to have a certain amount of personal attempt, at least, of objectivity. He doesn't particularly like Franklin Roosevelt. He saw them as a royal family, the Roosevelts as a royal family, and he thought they were up to no good, but he also was suspicious of the manner of FDR's death. And it's interesting that a person could be, objective. I don't know for sure. I haven't read the whole thing. I could be wrong. But I've seen enough of this book. I mean, people who are familiar with me realize that I too believe that there's an angling for a sort of manipulation mentality on the part of the high command in the rock industry. But this man raises issues and then hot wires around them. He's deliberately trying to feed into the mentality while disarming the research. This man does quite the opposite. It's a curious thing about him is that he believes the reader will, at first glance, take him for selling an extraterrestrials book. But it's actually quite a well-researched document in many ways about the underlying military-industrial complex. The Plot to Seize the White House from FDR by Jules Archer describes a historic issue of Smedley Butler. And so these pertain to things that are actually going on that matter a good deal. Now, this is an example of a particularly revealing book. It has quite a bit of information about the things that John Fitzgerald Kennedy said, who was a wit and was quite capable of vying with the right-wing intelligentsia. But the names on it are Donald and Bernard. Now, Bernard is named for Saint Bernard, the Marian doctor, which is at the essence of the martial law as marital law, two virgins, pussy boat, where again we find Clark to the AIDS attack. And Donald, of course, we're starting to understand why Donald is such an important name in all of this. And you'll notice tactically it points to the left while saying it's the far right. And of course we're seeing that sort of thing with the cosplay of the right wing showing up dressed as Antifa. So when we look at these books, we look for an example that's easily identified. The book about the history of pornography. And it's written by a man chosen to be Montgomery Hyde. Okay? And of course, civil rights action was in Montgomery, but Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the ha-ha-ha of J. Edgar Hoover's taping Martin Luther King. And what they have in mind with the use of Warren for this kind of spine-tingling Red Scare stuff, is something that traces back to what I covered in my paper, The Second Death of Huey Long, where they got the idea of distorting things and playing to people's sense of entertainment by distorting things. Actually, it goes back to a book written about Huey Long by Penn Warren. And he made no pretense. It was a fiction book, All the King's Men or something. He made no pretense of be telling the truth. But the movie was made of it, and people referred to this as the story of Huey Long, even though it was fiction. So Warren, developed into the Warren Report about Kennedy. And my research, of course, is about how King Edward did that for Hitler. But you'll see that Donald, again, is very important in the index of that situation. So there are, of course, other books that need to be evaluated. But when you look at something like the terms of cultural criticism, one of the things you're getting into is the fact that they do lay down terms for what you may and may not go into. And you'll be cut off. They've closed our schools with the COVID attack. And people are wondering what's going to become of our children being lied to this way. And it didn't just happen overnight. Adolf Hitler got a lot of publicity from Disney. And we see the books about Disney, again, feature the name Donald, and the imagination was used. I know an old professor who I rather like, who was deceived into believing that swastikas, horrible German swastikas, were an ancient African symbol. And he talked about the magic he saw in Germany, But the thing is the Pentagon Disney has been running a magic show with the German green axis in Africa, and getting everybody all mystified so that they get this idea of, using Swami Nostra tactics to, you have to get beyond smoke and mirrors to get to the reality of the way that Yoko Ono is sort of a Timothy McVeigh type, and her following are doing this stuff, And there are books that can help you understand who they are and how they think, But one of the things you have to avoid is getting into the character assassination stuff, like the way Donald, the pedo of Pittsburgh, and some of the people who teach and go into fairy tales are secretly appealing to children's sexuality, like Pinocchio, and get on the fun of eating out. Donald the pedo used to always laugh at Eaton Park. You look at these things and what they're after. It's justifying the extreme right-wing lunatism that comes with Donald, and from the history of things like Cotton Mather, you see that he's, this is written by a man named Murdoch, Murder Doctor, because they see abortion as evil and they're on a witch hunt. I don't care either way what you think about that issue. I'm a library clerk and I'm just explaining. Of course, they terrorized me. They subjected me to Chinese abortion torture. But understanding media, the media is the message, comes out in 1964, right? So what's the medium? It was the assassination of Kennedy. And what's the message? The message, another book from 1964, House of Nair, what's the message? Leroy. See if you can get what the message is, and the medium is the message. I'll try to focus it so you can see what it says. What's the message there, Mr. McLuhan? So Paranoia's Peisen door reminds me of Edward Eisen.